News 4. The guys who run the wires. News 4.
The ladies dressed in white.
News 4.
The men who put out fires.
News 4. Our folks who treat us right. News 4 New York. All kinds of places. News 4 New York.
We never let you down.
News 4 New York.
All kinds of places.
News 4 New York.
We cover the town.
We cover the town. News 4. The team who keeps us pretty. News 4.
The guys that pick the stocks.
News 4.
The folks who watch us city.
News 4. The men who work the docks. News 4 New York. All kinds of places. News 4 New York.
We never let you down.
News 4 New York.
All kinds of places.
News 4 New York.
We cover the town.
Cover the town. News 4.
News 4 New York at 6 and 11.
Graffiti, while a New York City art gallery is giving some of these graffiti writers the chance to do their work more constructively on canvas. We'll take a look. Good morning. This is Today in New York. I'm Panchita Pierce. Whichever way you look at it, we're confronted with graffiti every day, especially on subways and buildings. It's no news that the city wants to put an end to it. The question is how. Herb Rickman, Special Assistant to Mayor Koch, is behind a new campaign designed to reduce litter and graffiti in the city. Not everyone looks at graffiti as a nuisance. Mel Newlander has started marketing graffiti art at his new gallery in the Village, and it's called Graffiti Above Ground. Kane One, who goes by his street name, is a graffiti writer. He works at the gallery and is getting a chance to make his art not on the subways or buildings, but these days on canvases. Gentlemen, thank all three of you for joining us. And first, Herb, let's start with you and the city program. I guess you all got together and said, all right, enough is enough.
Exactly. We regard graffiti as a cancer in our midst. It's another sign of social breakdown within our community. We can't tolerate it any longer because it's costing every single taxpayer, all of us, millions and millions of dollars annually. And it's no longer just a problem in the subways where the interiors and the exteriors of cars have been destroyed, as well as our stations. It's public buildings which have been defaced, and of course private buildings as well. And each and every single one of us is paying the cost. What the mayor is going to do in just a few short weeks is announce a multifaceted campaign. At first stage, it's built on moral suasion. There will be a public service campaign aimed at two groups. First, at the youngsters themselves, who for the most part commit this crime, and it is a crime. You have to realize that most acts of graffiti are born in crime because the spray cans and the magic markers are lifted by these youngsters, and of course you and I are paying the cost every time we go into a store. So the first part of the campaign is aimed at the youngsters, to tell them that there's another way to make their mark in society. Second part of the campaign is aimed at the general community, to arouse peer pressure, to make all of us aware that we can do something about this problem. We're also going to create a citywide coalition, and that's to be headed by Bill Butcher, who's the chairman of the Chase Manhattan Bank, and there's going to be an attempt to involve every single sector of our community in this war. And that's the churches and industry and commerce and the schools.
What will they do exactly?
Well, we want to, number one, we want by public awareness, by making people mindful of how dangerous this problem is. That's one way of winning the war. Another part of the program is to reach the store owners in the city of New York. There has been a piece of legislation that's already been introduced to the city council to make it forbidden to sell youngsters in the city minors spray cans or magic markers. Well, we don't favor that. What we're going to do in our initial phase is ask storekeepers to make magic markers and spray cans less accessible to these youngsters. And of course, the final part of the program is to work with the judicial system, with our judges, with the district attorneys, to see to it that there are stiffened penalties anytime a malcreant or an offender or one of these vandals is caught in the act of graffiti.
Hasn't that been part of the basic problem, that kids do think they can get away with it and in fact knew they could?
Absolutely. And what it does to the rest of us is it's a sign that this city is uncontrolled and uncontrollable, and the mayor won't tolerate that any longer.
All right, Kane 1, you're listening to this. There was a time in your life when you were doing this, maybe, what, 6, 7 years ago? You would just go randomly and, what, do damage, if you will, to a subway car?
I look at graffiti differently. There's a difference between graffiti art and graffiti vandalism. When I went down the yards a long time ago, I did it out of frustration, because as an artist with potential, I had nowhere to turn, because me, and speaking on behalf of all the other graffiti artists, come from underprivileged families and, you know, poor families, and most of them come from ghettos. And we have no way out. We have the talent, but we don't have, you know, the support from the city. We don't have money for canvas. We don't have paints. So our next alternative is to go to the stores, lift the paint, go down the yards, and create murals. Now, I'm saying down the yards because that's where the graffiti art takes place. We take our time in doing something real nice and beautiful, whereas the graffiti vandals, which Herb is speaking about, run around from station to station, kick out windows, scribble their names, and mug people. Now, on the other hand, I disagree totally with the city and the MTA about their proposals, because they're treating graffiti artists like a bunch of animals. And I feel that the best solution, and I have a few proposals of my own, speaking as a graffiti artist and on behalf of other graffiti artists, which would be to talk with graffiti artists, because we're not animals, we're human too.
But is there a point at one time when you may really have been more of a vandal, and later, if you will, you became an artist and recognized it, but in the beginning that there are lots of kids out there who are not in this artistic concept at all? It is defacing, it is vandalism, it is I don't care about the system.
Well, yeah, it is against the law and everything, and some people who do it just to get their emotions out and don't have any potential usually give up. It's a phase in their life. But the people with artistic potential stick to it. Now, I've been doing it, and hopefully I won't have to do it anymore, to get exposure and have people like Mr. Newlander and his graffiti gallery, Graffiti Productions, notice me. There wouldn't be any other way. I don't have like a listing in the yellow pages where people could come to me. I've been to other galleries too, and they don't even want to look at my work, let alone hang it up in their gallery. Now, Mr. Newlander took a chance, and he, you know, and supplied the canvases, the materials. He took a lot of people off the street. It's not a rehabilitation center. It's an opportunity for people to view graffiti as art.
All right, we can certainly see the influence he had on your life to turn it into a constructive phase. Working with these young artists, what do you think of Herb Rickman's proposals and the changes that the city wants to do?
First, let me say two things. Number one, we're in the same direction. I live in the city, and as someone that loves the city, I think that society has lost control. A lot of the graffiti that I do see is offensive to me also. And I can't justify the legality or illegality of the problem. It is definitely a problem. But I feel that the city, with this war on graffiti, is misdirected in their approach to ending this. First of all, I deal with these young artists, with these kids from the street, every day. Since January 1981, it's been a part of my life, and I work at this 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, and what these kids think about this new program is a laugh. Particularly, last night, I got the New York Times. I read about this new, the city is proposing work camps at Rikers Island. 2-week stays for a chronic, they say, habitual graffiti artist. These programs, to send a kid to camp, first of all, for 2 weeks, will be a badge of honor that he can wear in the street. Hey, I've been to Rikers Island, I've been caught by this. The tougher the city makes it for these kids to do this graffiti writing, the more challenging they will take it upon themselves to do it.
Herb, can you understand that?
What you're hearing here is one of the reasons why there's a total breakdown in our society. To justify in any way the mindless vandalism, now forget this nonsense of art.
I never justified.
This is mindless vandalism. 90% of it is regarded by all New Yorkers as a mindless hodgepodge. All it is a tag. These kids, for the most part, are taggers. They put their name or their nickname and a couple of numbers, and what's happening is it is so gross and so ugly, and it's costing us millions and millions of dollars, and our people are fed up with it. And part of the reason that we have the problem in this city is because so many of the chic aesthetes in New York that decided a long time ago that this was a new form of urban art. Well, I ask any subway rider to stand up and tell me that this is urban art. And you've heard from our two speakers here already that most of it is not art. It is pure and simple vandalism, and we can't tolerate it any longer.
A quick close.
Mindless is a subjective term when you're dealing with art, and mindless is subjective to the person, to the...
I would leave it to the people of New York to make that decision.
All right.
That's fine.
On that cue and on that end, we will leave it to the people of New York. We wanted you to be aware that there is a major campaign to try to change it, and also to be exposed to those who look at graffiti writing as different in some ways. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to take a break and come back with musicians Billy Taylor and Rufus Reid after this break. Stay with us.